What's up, everyone? It's James Hernandez. How's everybody doing? And hope you're all doing good. And welcome to a brand new top 10 list. And today I'm going to be doing my top 10 favorite action scenes from superhero movies. Now, this is going to be very interesting. And the reason why I'm going to be doing this list is because National Superhero Day is actually right around the corner. So I thought I wanted to share you guys what are my absolute favorite action scenes from every superhero movie. It could either be from Marvel, DC, Dark Horse. It can be either live action or animated. So this is what I'm going to be doing for this list. So so yeah, I think this is actually going to be a lot of fun. And just to let you guys know that these are just my personal favorite superhero scenes, or technically action scenes from every single superhero movie. So if there's any superhero action scenes that should have been on this list, let me know in the comments below. And if your favorite action scene is not on the list, then I will put them on my honorable mentions. And yeah, so without further ado, let's get started. So before I start the top 10 list, I got a couple of honorable mentions I'm gonna share to you guys. So here are my honorable mentions: Spider-Man and Harry Osborn versus Sandman and Venom from Spider-Man 3, Batman versus Catwoman from Batman Returns, The Justice Forever versus the Toxic Villains from Kick-Ass 2, The Fantastic Four versus Doctor Doom from 2005's Fantastic Four, and Superman versus General Zod from Man of Steel. Yeah, if there's actually one positive thing I can say about Man of Steel is that at least the action in Man of Steel is actually pretty decent. Even though there wasn't, even though I kind of felt like the Superman movies when it comes to action is not really amazing because usually the Christopher Reeve Superman movies in terms of the action does look a little dated and is very questionable. But as much as I thought Man of Steel is actually the weakest adaptation of Superman, but at least the fight between General Zod and Superman was actually really entertaining to watch. Like it's something like out of like Dragon Ball Z. So anyway, so without further ado, let's start the top 10 list. So let's get started. So at number 10 is Hit Girl destroys the thugs when she saves Kick-Ass from, well, the first Kick-Ass. Now, this movie actually is one of those superhero films where it's basically like not intended for children. But this movie is actually not afraid to have like the youngest actress, Chloe Grace Moretz, who played Hit Girl, to be part of this movie. So when those thugs were trying to kill Kick-Ass, when Kick-Ass puts like a taser on this guy when he was playing the video game, Hit Girl actually came and then she actually just like destroys and basically beaten all of those thugs in the room in front of Kick-Ass, and Kick-Ass was so surprised. And what's really funny about the scene is that when Hit Girl was killing those thugs, there was the song that actually played was actually the Banana Splits, which I was like, wait, what? And it was interesting because when I first watched it, I didn't really understand like what the song is. That wasn't until like I was listening to the song very carefully, and when it was like tra la 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 la, and I was like, oh wait a minute, is that what I think it is? And it's actually the Banana Splits. So yeah, like I thought Chloe Grace Moretz actually really does steal the show in the first Kick-Ass movie, even though in the second movie they don't really give her a lot to do. But in this one, when she actually killed all those muggers when they were about to kill Kick-Ass, she did not play around, and she tends to be like one of the most violent youngest superheroes of all time. So I thought that scene was actually like one of the most like entertaining moments in the first Kick-Ass movie. And sure, I really do like the first battle that Kick-Ass actually fought those street thugs when they were attacking the guy. When one guy was telling Kick-Ass to mind his own business, but then he was like, yes it is, and then he fights the guys. But I gotta say, Hit Girl's first action scene, I think it has to be like my most favorite action scene in the first movie. So that's why Hit Girl's first action scene in the first Kick-Ass movie is on this list. Okay, coming at number 9 is Hulk versus Abomination from The Incredible Hulk. Now, I want to include the Hulk on this list is because I felt like we never really been getting like a solo Hulk movie ever since The Incredible Hulk in 2008, which is ridiculous. Also, since the Hulk is going to be appearing in Spider-Man Brand New Day, I got to include The Incredible Hulk versus Abomination from The Incredible Hulk movie on this list. Now, I know the 2003 Hulk movie wasn't like the best, but the scenes with the Hulk is actually really good, and I thought the Hulk's color of him being green looks pretty like accurate to the Hulk. But when it comes to the action, the Incredible Hulk is actually really entertaining, and the final battle between Hulk and Abomination was a lot of fun to watch. It's like watching like one of those like two of the biggest, so okay, not the biggest, but like one of the strongest muscular monsters like fighting each other in the city. And it was still fun, even for a film that came out in 2008. I still think it really does hold up. They don't really make the scene like a whole joke like what Marvel's been doing now, because when the Hulk and Abomination fight, it really got serious. And it was really fun to watch. I thought it was creative. It just feels like they're fighting like a bunch of wrestlers that was just like fighting in the city while everyone was like running for their lives. And one of my favorite scenes like in the action is when as soon as Abomination grabs the chain and then he was swinging around like he was about to kill General Zod, he was like, any last words? And then the Hulk actually says, Hulk smash, and then he smashed the floor and basically got him to get the opportunity to defeat Abomination, even like he was this close into choking him. So technically like Abomination was defeated, but the Hulk didn't actually kill him because Betty told the Hulk to stop, and then Abomination actually got locked up. And we kind of see Abomination in Shang-Chi, but I kind of felt like it was wasted because we don't really get to explore a lot from Abomination. And I really wish that would have, and I really hope that we'll see Abomination like in the future Marvel movie. And I really hope that Marvel makes another solo Hulk movie in the future, because I don't like the fact that Marvel just basically has the Hulk being like the side character from another Marvel movie, whatever's like the Avengers or Thor or Spider-Man. Since the new one is coming. But I would have liked to see a solo Hulk movie. But other than that, the Hulk versus Abomination from the Incredible Hulk movie was really fun, and it was so incredible. All right, number 8, speaking of incredible, is The Incredibles and Frozone versus the Amadroid from the first Incredibles. Now, The Incredibles, like when it really comes to superhero movies from Pixar, The Incredibles is incredible, no pun intended. So the fight between the Incredibles going up against the Amadroid and then Frozone shows up to help really still holds up, and I think the action is actually very creative. And I can understand, I can really see, and you guys can really see why Mr. Incredible wants to keep his family safe while he fights the Amadroid, while Helen, also known as Elastigirl, actually criticized Bob for not being a team player. But you actually understand in both sides because Elastigirl doesn't want to feel like she and her kids are useless while Mr. Incredible does all the work. But at the same time, you really do see why Mr. Incredible wants to keep his family safe, because he doesn't want to lose them again, because he almost lost them when Syndrome like presses the button and summons like the missiles, and Mr. Incredible thought that his family was killed in the jet by Syndrome's missiles. So, oh, sorry guys. So in the fight between the Incredibles and the Amadroid and then Frozone came by was really fun to watch, and it was very creative. I like how when Frozone is also one of those superheroes that actually is very active of being a superhero, and it was actually the first time that the Incredibles actually worked together as a superhero team, which is like the Fantastic Four basically. So the fight was just really fun. I like how Mr. Incredible actually thinks what he has to do while he helps his family. And then Frozone actually uses his ice powers to block everything from the Amadroid so the Amadroid doesn't get too close. And then when Elastigirl presses the button from Syndrome's remote, it gives Mr. Incredible the opportunity to like let go of this claw thing. I forgot. I think it's like that claw thing from the robot. And then he lets go, and then it aims like a missile, and it actually destroys the Amadroid. And that's where the Incredibles and Frozone were, they saved the day, and then everyone in the city actually gave them a round of applause. They cheer for them, and it was fun. It's actually one of my favorite sequences in the first Incredibles movie, and I really do think it really holds up to this day. And as for the action in The Incredibles 2, while they were pretty good, but I kind of felt like it definitely doesn't really live up to the same action as the first movie. So that's why I think that final battle in the first movie is on this list. So, and also because, since The Incredibles 3 is in the works, which I'm really looking forward to. I really like that fight in the Incredibles. Okay, number 7, I gotta go with the subway fight from Hellboy. Now it's not basically like the scene where they first like where Hellboy fight the monsters in the subway for the first time, but it's when Hellboy sees those mix of like half predator, half alien looking creatures, and then Hellboy looks at him and he was like, "Did I kill you already?" And then they basically like they fight in the subway, and it was fun. It also gets like pretty silly at times, like when this monster was like tossing Hellboy like a rag doll in front of everyone in the subway, like in front of people. And then when so then like Hellboy was kind of struggling when he was fighting the monster. Not only that, but he also was trying to save the cats when the woman was screaming for someone to save her cat. So then Hellboy grabs like the cats that were in the box, whatever, and Hellboy actually was fighting the monsters, and the lady was like, "Be careful with my cats." And then Hellboy was like, "It's like, lady, would you give me a break?" and then um, and then I like how Hellboy actually grabs the tongue from the monster, and then he was like, "Second date, no tongue," and then he just like tosses the monster around, and then the monster actually got hit by a train. And yeah, I do think that Ron Perlman did like an excellent job playing Hellboy, and I really hope that he comes back because I heard that he really wants to return as Hellboy for Hellboy 3, and we really wanted Hellboy 3. You know, as much as I thought Dave Harbour did a good job playing Hellboy in the Hellboy reboot, but we all know who's a true Hellboy, and it's Ron Perlman. But as for the that fight was actually really good. Some of the action scenes in Hellboy does look a little dated because of like 2000 standards, but that fight actually is really cool, and I really would like to see another Hellboy movie with Ron Perlman in the future. So that's why this action scene from the first Hellboy movie is on the list. Okay, number six is Superman versus Ultraman and the Raptors from James Gunn's Superman. Now, this one is really tough for me because when it comes to the action scenes in Superman, there's not really much action. Okay, not it's not that there's not much action, but usually when it comes to the action in Superman movies, it's not really quite as like amazing or as brutal or some of the other superhero movies, especially as like Batman. Because just like in my honorable mentions, I really do think the action in James Gunn's Superman was a lot of fun. Like when Superman was saving the city from this big, like Godzilla-sized monster, and he saves like the squirrel, he saves like people, from destroying Metropolis. But I think my favorite action scene in this movie has to be like when Lex Luthor was summoning Ultraman and those Raptors to basically fight Superman. And Superman was not alone when he was like fighting Ultraman or the Raptors because his dog Crypto actually got into the action, and also Crypto actually managed to destroy like the cameras from Lex Luthor and his men that works for him, and that's where Lex Luthor actually gets like so frustrated. So then like Superman was like fighting Ultraman, and then he actually defeated him, and then Superman uses his heat vision and just took out the Raptors. Now it's kind of strange like how the Raptors actually did like manage to be defeated when they got hit by Superman's heat vision, because when Superman shoots his heat vision at them, the Raptors actually fall down on the floor, and some of them actually managed to survive while they're not technically like dead, but it was kind of confusing because like when they fall down they still manage to move, or or manage to break their necks where they basically fall down on the floor when they were defeated by Superman. So, so yeah, I wish what I was gonna put like Superman versus General Zod from Man of Steel, because I thought that was like one of my favorite parts of of Man of Steel. But I think James Gunn's Superman actually does feel like it really wants to like be in the like tries to be like in the capture like what's that word I'm looking for, like wants to be in the capture like same spirit as the Christopher Reeve Superman movie, while it really wants to make the scene feel like you're seeing Superman fighting the villains that were trying to kill him, while Superman gets like help from Crypto. So I do think this fight is actually pretty cool to watch. Like I wish it was a bit more creative, but it's still fun to watch. So that's why I wanted to include this action scene from the James Gunn Superman movie on the list. Okay, at number 5 is Night Owl and Silk Spectre versus the prisoners from Watchmen. Now, I forgot to mention this action scene when I did my Watchmen movie review when it comes to the action, because the only action scene I did mention in my Watchmen review is when the Rorschach was fighting the police when he was framed for Moloch's murder. But this scene, when Silk Spectre and Night Owl were fighting the prisoners while they rescued Rorschach, was actually one of my favorite parts of the movie. After when these two actually like save the people from the burning building, and then of course the Hallelujah scene plays, which is awkward, you know. But when it comes to the prison fight scene, that was actually like my favorite part of the movie, because when Night Owl and Silk Spectre arrive, whatever you watch like the director's cut or the theatrical cut, it's still fun to watch, and I really like how these two actually took out the prisoners like with no problem because of like they actually are very skilled combatants in the Watchmen universe. While because the Watchmen characters don't have powers except for Dr. Manhattan because he's the only character that has powers while the others doesn't. But and what I also like about the scene about this action scene where it got a little funny is when all the prisoners are defeated, there's actually one cop that was telling Silk Spectre to surrender, and then he actually got distracted by Night Owl, and that gives Silk Spectre the opportunity to basically punch the cop in the face, knocking him out. And I was like, yeah, that's what you get. But yeah, I still really love the Watchmen movie. It's still like one of my favorite comic book movies of all time, even one of my favorite Zack Snyder movies. And this action scene is definitely like one of my favorite ones. As much as I did like the scene where Rorschach was fighting the police, but the scene where Night Owl and Silk Spectre fight the prisoners in order to rescue Rorschach when they realized that Rorschach was framed the whole time, it definitely is one of my favorite scenes in superhero history, and it really deserves to be on this list. And I love that scene. Okay, at number 4 is okay, this is a good one. At number 4 is Spider Man versus Doc Ock, and he saves the train from Spider Man 2. This is one of my favorite action scenes from the Sam Raimi Spider Man movies. Now, it's really hard for me to choose like which action scene from the Sam Raimi Spider Man trilogy that I really enjoyed because all of the action from the Sam Raimi Spider Man movies, even if Spider Man 3 is like not the best one, but the action really still holds up today. So I do think when Spider-Man and Doc Ock fight, like on top of the train, was really, really creative. And it was really fast-paced, and it was like so good. It actually does look like they were basically fighting. It was a mix of like practical effects and CGI, and it was right after like when Doc Ock actually kidnaps Mary Jane, and then Peter actually finally got his powers back, and he's back to being Spider-Man. So when Spider-Man and Doc Ock fight again, it was really fun, and not only the fight, but like when Peter Parker saved the subway when he has his mask off, and when he saves a train, it was awesome and it was so creative, and this it's like something that you never seen from like a live action Spider-Man movie at all. When Spider-Man's spider sense tingles, and then it sees like there's like the end of the track, and the train cannot stop because Doc Ock actually puts like the train over like how many miles an hour, and then he just like breaks the brakes. He basically just pulls it out and it just breaks it, and then he was like, "Oh, hey Spidey, you have a train to catch. I'll see you later." And then that's where Spider-Man was like, "Oh man, as much as I don't want Doc Ock to get away, I'm gonna deal with him later, and I can't let the train fall off the tracks and hurting these people." So the scene where Peter Parker saves the people in the subway was very creative, and I still think it's like one of my favorite scenes in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. I love the action in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, but this one tends to be like the greatest and the most creative action scene I have ever seen, not only from a Spider-Man movie, but also from a superhero movie. So that's why I include that one on the list. Okay, at number 3 is Iron Man versus Captain America and Winter Soldier from Captain America Civil War. Holy Christ. Out of all of the action scenes from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this scene where Iron Man was fighting Captain America and Winter Soldier in Captain America Civil War was so suspenseful because this is where like Iron Man actually begins to snap when he noticed that that Bucky Barnes was the one who actually murdered his parents, and he was about to kill Winter Soldier for that. But then Steve Rogers actually tries to calm Tony down, but as soon as like Tony Stark actually refuses to surrender, the fight and the suspense got very serious. It was back then that like when Marvel actually like they sometimes want to play the humor, but this was the moment where like Marvel was not joking around, and the fight between Iron Man and Captain America, especially it's a 2-on-1 fight. You know, it really does make you feel bad for Tony Stark. And there was also a scene like where Bucky Barnes was about to take Tony Stark's heart out of his Iron Man suit, and even when I was watching the trailer, I was like, oh no, is he gonna do what I thought he was gonna do? And then basically Iron Man just like he blasts Bucky Barnes's arm off, and I was like, oh, yo, this is damn. Even me and my cousin talked about it like when this movie came out, and then and my cousin thought like when he saw that scene, he thought it was nasty. And I was like, yeah, it really is. Like the way how Iron Man just blew Bucky's arm off like that with his chest blaster, it was crazy. And it was also not only that, but the scene like where Captain America almost like in was it basically was about to kill Tony with the shield on his heart. I was like, oh snap, he's gonna do it, is he? But he basically like spared his life, and then he helps Bucky Barnes to get up, and then he just basically just leaves Tony on the floor, and that is where like Captain America basically wins. Throughout the whole movie, like I was siding with Iron Man, but when Captain America actually defeats Iron Man, it got really serious, and that is where like Tony and Steve haven't really contact with each other or haven't seen each other ever since like after when Thanos snapped his fingers in at the end of Infinity War, and they haven't seen each other until like the beginning of Avengers Endgame. But this scene from Captain America Civil War is very suspenseful. I was going to put the airport scene from that movie, which I really like that scene, but that action scene like where Iron Man and Captain America was fighting, especially when Bucky was helping Cap to fight Iron Man, was like one of the most suspenseful action scenes I have ever seen in a Marvel movie. Like, wow. Like, it really does make you feel bad for Iron Man, and you really were like, kind of like, you pretty much were like rooting for him to like basically take down both Steve and Bucky at the same time by himself. And the fact that he was alone on this, yeah, you really do feel bad for Tony Stark in this one. So I really like that scene, and it was also seen in the trailer where it really doesn't shy away of like how suspenseful and creative that the fight scene was. So I really like this scene. That's why this scene from Captain America Civil War is on the list. All right, number two, I might be cheating on this one because I know some of you guys might be like, "Oh, well, it's not really a movie. It's actually it's basically an animated series from a cartoon." But since this one is a movie based on a cartoon, I'm going to include this anyways. So and at number two is Batman versus the Vampires from The Batman versus Dracula. Now, do you guys remember Batman versus Dracula based on the TV show The Batman? Yeah, like this was the first animated Batman movie that I watched based on the Dark Knight himself. And the fight where Batman actually got all the needles to like basically just like basically defeat the vampires and turn them back into humans that since they were like all bitten by the vampires that were working for Dracula. It was like one of the scariest and one of the most like nightmarish scenes I have ever seen in the Batman movie. Like this movie does not shy away of like how scary that this Batman movie is, especially when he was fighting like the king of vampires. Because the Batman versus Dracula is like something like out of a horror film. Like basically it will kind of like traumatize your kids, you know what I mean, based on the superhero from DC. So Batman actually got all the sets of needles that is attached to his body, and he basically defeats all the vampires before he goes after Dracula, was really fun. And then it shows that like that Batman was able to do it all by himself and bring those people like back to their normal selves. And I thought, yeah, Batman is Batman. He can still fight by himself, And he's actually one of the greatest detectives in the DC universe, and he's also like one of the most intelligent superheroes of all time. So I really want to include the Batman versus Dracula on here because I haven't watched that movie for like a long time, but maybe in the future I might review it, but we'll see. But as for right now, this action scene was really fun. I really do enjoy this one. All right, guys, at number one, my number one most favorite action scene from superhero movies is the final battle from Avengers Endgame. Yeah, this is like my most favorite one. I could have like put Infinity War on it, like where Thanos pretty much just like wiped out everyone else. But the final battle where all the Avengers and all the heroes come from Doctor Strange's portals was like the most viewed action scene in superhero history. And the fact that and the way how Captain America was like, Avengers assemble. And that was so awesome. And seeing all the heroes like Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Black Panther, Spider-Man, even the Guardians of the Galaxy, all combined together to fight Thanos in this gigantic war was awesome. And it was like absolute cinema. And because of that scene, it become like so viral that they wanted to include other characters from other universes to join the battle. Like they would put like Sonic the Hedgehog or Goku, Godzilla, King Kong, Scooby Doo, or Lord of the Rings, and Watchmen, or the Green Lantern Corps, or even SpongeBob SquarePants. It was just like so out of control. So that is why like this scene is actually one of my favorite action scenes in superhero movies. Like the fight in the war zone is like really creative. And it also reminds me of like one of those action scenes from like the war zone scenes like in films like the Chronicles of Narnia and even Ready Player One, when all the characters are in this gigantic war zone, was just so entertaining and it was really fun to watch. Avengers Endgame did such a good job of making like one of the greatest climaxes that you have ever seen, not just from a superhero movie, but like in cinema history. And the scene like where Iron Man actually sacrificed himself to defeat Thanos, it was really heartbreaking, but it was also heroic because you would think that Thanos was going to win again, but then when he realizes when he doesn't have the stones in his gauntlet, and then Iron Man gets it, and that's where he was like, I am Iron Man. Snap the fingers, and then Thanos' army and Thanos is defeated. And that is where, unfortunately, Tony Stark dies. It was really heartbreaking. It was really sad for him to go. But it was one of the greatest, one of the saddest climaxes that you have ever seen in a superhero movie. Even when I rewatch it, it really was really hard to see Tony Stark to go when he actually sacrificed himself to defeat Thanos. And it just really feels like a really great finale to the Infinity Saga. And I really hope that Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars actually does have that same tone like Infinity War and Endgame. So I'm really am having my hopes for Doomsday. But as for Avengers Endgame, that fight scene with the whole Warzone situation was really awesome. And that is why Avengers Endgame, the final battle, is my number one most favorite action scene in superhero movies. So, folks, that is my top 10 most favorite action scenes in superhero movies. Now, I want to hear from you guys. What did you guys think of my list? Did you guys agree or disagree? What are the other superhero action scenes that you wish that would have been on this list? And what is your top 10 favorite action scenes from superhero movies? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts. And in case if you guys are new here, feel free to subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, and turn on the notifications when I make brand new videos. And stay tuned for the next video that I'm going to be working on, the next Characters Face-Off episode, since it's actually going to be the most like hottest and the most burningest battle ever. If you guys have seen at the end of James Bond versus Ethan Hunt, the next Characters Face-Off episode is going to be the Human Torch versus Firestorm, the second Marvel versus DC match, which is going to be really interesting. So stay tuned for that video. So other than that, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys enjoyed my top 10 favorite action scenes from superhero movies. This is James Hernandez, signing out.